Do you remember what was the first video game you ever played? Was it possibly Pong? Or Pac-Man? Or The Legend of Zelda? Or a Metroid game? Was it Crash Bandicoot? Was it Halo? Was it Call of Duty 4? Well, my first video game was this one. And it's one that I like quite a lot. Benvenuti nella mia recensione di Super Mario 64. Non parlo italiano, ho appena imparato questa frase per il video. Bastardi e meglio se vi piace il video. Yeah, so hasn't been a year since we did our Super Mario 64 Let's Play, but as tradition would dictate, we now do a review afterwards. Few months at least afterwards, apparently. 3D games nowadays is pretty much a non sequitur. Saying that a game is 3D is like saying that the ocean is blue. Yeah, really? Oh wow, 3D. But that wasn't the case in 1996. In 1996, 3D games sucked, for the most part. Super Mario 64 is definitely one of the first, not saying it is the first, but it's definitely one of the first good 3D games of all time. It proved that 3D games can exist, and not only that, but that you can take a franchise that started in the second dimension and then turn it into the third. Again, it doesn't really seem like a big deal for nowadays, but for the time, this was a big boom. And I've heard a few people say this about Super Mario 64, and I'm gonna steal it and use it for this video. What the original Super Mario Bros. Did for the 2D platformer, Super Mario 64 did for the 3D platformer, which is make it insanely popular. So popular, in fact, that it coined a term that is still in use till this freaking day. And that is a camera. Yep, in case you didn't know, the reason why we call video games cameras is because of our boy Lakitu and his little stick. Yeah. Speaking of cameras, that's probably the biggest criticism of this game, is that the camera is terrible. Now, for modern standards, it is terrible. If you release a game today with the same camera system as Super Mario 64's, you're doing a bad job. But then again, this game came out in 1996. Can any of you name a game that came out in 1996 that has this good of a camera? I can't. Nothing comes to mind. Alright, so we're in the third dimension. How much has changed since the last game? Well, in the last game, you can walk, run, jump, spin jump, and that's about it in terms of movement. In this game, you can walk, run, jump, double jump, triple jump, jump in the dive, long jump, side jump, jump backwards, punch, kick, wall jump, climb ledges, slide kick, breakdance kick, and crawl. Am I missing something? That's a big difference between games. It's a real big difference. Now, it might sound like a lot on paper, but in practice it's actually pretty intuitive. It's still really surprising how well this game feels, especially for the time when it came out. In terms of movement, I don't think it's that far behind on modern platformers. Now yes, in Mario Odyssey you can do stuff like, wall jump and then throw the cap and whatever, which is a lot more advanced than what you have here, but what you have here isn't like primitive by any means. One thing that a lot of people bring up when criticizing this game is that Mario can't do X, but in reality they just can't do X. And the reason why I know this is because I can do X a lot of the time when they say it's impossible. It clearly isn't because I'm doing it. So Mario's control isn't the issue, it's the player. But we'll get into that later. I mean, if we compare this to another 3D platformer that came out around the same time that is also very popular, Crash Bandicoot, we can really see how innovative Mario's movement was for this game. In Crash, you can walk, jump, spin, and that's about it. Now yes, in later games you could do belly flop and slide, but for the first game, which came out in the same year as Mario 64, you could only do those three things. I'm not saying that Crash Bandicoot is a bad game, but in comparison, one has a lot more depth to it than the other. Alright, so what are you doing in Mario 64? Are you saving the princess? Yes. Are you hitting the flag post? No. We are collecting stars. Definitely not starmen. 100% different. These are stars. These are power stars specifically. There's 120 throughout the game that need to be collected. You don't need 120 to beat the game, but they're there for you to collect. which is cool. I like it. Now where do you find these 120 stars? Well, there's 15 courses for you to explore and to find these stars. 6 normal missions, plus the 1 star that you get for collecting 100 coins in said course. The courses are as follows: Bob-omb Battlefield, Womp's Fortress, Jolly Rancher Bay, Cool Mountain, Big Boo's Haunt, Hazy Maze Cave, Lethal Lava Land, Shifting Sand Land, Dire Docks, Snowman's Land, Wet Dry World, Tall Mountain, Teeny Huge Island, Tick-Tock Clock, and Rainbow Ride. Now if you do the math, you're thinking that 7 times 15 isn't 120, what's the deal? Well, there's a handful of secret stars throughout the castle. One thing that I really like about this game is that on a technical level, every single star except for the first one and the one right before the second Bowser fight is 100% optional. You only need 70 stars to get to the final fight with Bowser, and you can do the stars in any order you want. Therefore, the amount of replayability is through the roof. If you want to get the first star and ignore the other 6 in the first course, you can go right ahead. If you want to get all the stars in the first course and completely skip the second one, you can go right ahead. You only need 8 stars to battle Bowser the first time, and when we did it in the Let's Play, I had like 36 I think, so you have an idea of just how flexible the game really is. I got so many stars before the first Bowser fight that I could have immediately gone to the second one after doing the first one with the amount of stars I had. And like I said before, you can completely skip courses you don't like if you really want to. But let's actually get a little more in depth when it comes to the first course, eh? I think Bob-omb Battlefield is a pretty good first course. It kind of teaches you the ropes pretty easily. The red coins is pretty easy, the 100 coin star is pretty easy. The boss fight is pretty easy. The Koopalings race is pretty straightforward. The Chain Chomp Star is pretty straightforward as well. All in all, this is a really straightforward course, and it's definitely a good one to get introduced to. The only thing that seems kind of strange is the bubble cannons that are getting shot at you in certain parts of the course. Nothing like this really happens again throughout the game, so it's really weird that it's in the first one. The second course is also a good beginner course. It introduces a few more elements that you'll see later on in the game. We get another boss, we get bottomless pits, and we get stars like Blast Away the Wall, which are just real cryptic. I think this might be the most cryptic star in the entire game. Now throughout the game, there's fundamentally 2 different kinds of stars that these courses show off rather well. There are stars that you get by doing things, and there are stars you get by just getting to the star, such as beating Bob-omb King, racing Koopa the Quick, and getting the 8 red coins. And then we have the other one, which is simply just getting to the star, such as the one that's in the box in the floating island in the first course, the one that's here in the second course, and the one you need the aloe to get that's in the cage. Now, fundamentally, every star is either one of these 2 types. They do become more complex later on, such as this star in Hazy Maze Cave. You can see it, you know all you need to do is to get to the star, but there isn't any immediate information given to the player as how to actually get there. You know it's there, but you really don't know where there is relative to where you are. And sometimes you won't even know what the thing is. Like again, in Blast Away the Wall. What wall am I blasting away? Now a big complaint that a lot of people has is that once you get a star, you get booted out of the level and you need to re-enter the level to go get another one. People often bring up Banjo-Kazooie, because in Banjo-Kazooie you just get one of the things. It's been a long time since I played Banjo-Kazooie. What are they called? I don't remember what the thingamajiggers are called, but one of the thingamajiggers, as soon as you get one of those puzzle pieces? I don't remember. As soon as you get one, you can just go on and find the rest, and you don't get booted out of the level like you do in Super Mario 64. Now, I've only played Banjo-Kazooie a handful of times, but if I'm remembering correctly, the levels in Banjo-Kazooie are a lot more expansive than the ones in Super Mario 64. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure they're a lot more expansive. If you check the runtime on a few of my episodes, you'll see it's only 10 minutes, and that's with me getting booted out and jumping back in the painting. Imagine if I didn't have to jump back in the painting. Imagine just how quick you could do this. I don't think it's that big of a problem as people make it out to be, with 2 exceptions, but we'll get to that later. Just like Super Mario World, Super Mario 64 continues the trend of making power-ups crappier. In Super Mario World, we had the red mushroom, the 1-up mushroom, the fire flower, and the cape feather. Not a whole bunch of power-ups. The cape feather is definitely one of the best power-ups in the entire Mario franchise, for sure. But in terms of quantity, especially when comparing it to Mario 3, it's not a whole bunch. In this game, you get 4, really. Wing cap, metal cap, vanishing cap, and the 1-up. Doesn't that seem strange? Let me say that again. Wing cap, metal cap, vanishing cap, 1-up. Don't focus on the quantity, focus on the actual... Doesn't that seem strange? Have you not noticed yet? Let me point it out for you. And maybe your mind will be blown, because when I realized this, I was kind of like, wait, that's super weird. There's no red mushroom, there's no fire flower, and there's no Starman. Those 3 power-ups have been in every single Mario game since the first Super Mario Bros. And they're not here. Isn't that crazy? Now, the Starman isn't here because power stars aren't the same thing. They look exactly the same, but they're not the same thing. There's no invincibility power-up. Maybe you can kind of justify, or maybe you can kind of make the argument that the metal cap is the invincibility version of power-up for this game, but it's not really the same. Now the question is, why weren't these iconic power-ups not included in the first 3D Mario game? I literally have no idea. Now, since this game doesn't really work on a hit system like the 2D games, you can kind of argue that's why the red mushroom wasn't included, but you could definitely include that to like fully heal you or maybe increase the amount of hit points you have. There's definitely a really easy way of implementing this thing if they really wanted to. Kind of weird. I understand why the fire flower wasn't introduced a little bit more, just because you gotta think about it, like how are you gonna implement the fire flower in a 3D space? Are you gonna be able to shoot 2 fireballs and then wait till the 2 go off screen until you can shoot 2 more? Is it gonna be like a few feet and then you can shoot more? Because in the 2D games you can shoot 2 and that was it until the 2 are off screen or disappear. Also, aiming is going to be a problem because, you can't really accurately aim where you're going to shoot them. Kind of understand why. Also, you literally can breathe air and regain health, so at what point do you lose the power-up? Do you get hit once and lose it? Do you lose it at half health? I just think it's kind of interesting that they didn't include these iconic power-ups in the first 3D game. I wasn't really missing them, but as soon as I realized they weren't there, I was kind of like, oh, that's strange. Nobody talks about that. That's why I wanted to mention that. Not only are some of the most iconic power-ups in Mario history not in this game, but also the power-ups that are here absolutely suck and are useless, almost. For starters, the 1-up is completely irrelevant because you can get game overs and there's literally no consequence other than you have to walk back to the level you were at when you got the game over. That's it, you don't lose anything. And the cap power-ups themselves are very situational. This is like the first instance, really, of a extremely situational power-up. Whereas previously, the fire flower, no matter what situation you're in, you're gonna want it or you're gonna be glad you have it at the very least. The only other real situational power-up there was in the series up to this point is like the frog suit, but even then that's like one in the game that introduced a whole bunch of other useful power-ups, so it kind of gets a pass. Here, not so much. Use the wing cap in a handful of occasions to either grab coins to grab a star or grab coins to grab a star. That's pretty much it, actually. You use the metal cap to sink to the bottom of water or to not die by poison or to sink to the bottom of water. Yep. Use the vanishing cap to go through ice or through this painting or through this gate thing or to sink to the bottom of the water when you also have the metal cap. That one mission where you get 2 of the power-ups at the same time. The only mission that's like that. Yeah. These power-ups suck. Now again, when you have the metal cap, you are pretty much immortal and enemies die on contact. The vanishing cap... You also just don't really encounter any of the caps that many times. Like, I can think of 1, 2, 3 times you use the feather cap. I can think of 1, 2, 3 times you use the metal cap. 4, and like 2 or 3 times you use the vanishing cap. These power-ups are very lackluster, and my understanding is they continue to be lackluster in the future 3D games. So maybe if they did introduce the red mushroom and the fire flower into this game, maybe that wouldn't be the case for future games, but that isn't the case here, so yeah. Now the wiki does count the Koopa shell as a power-up, which I didn't really consider until now. Maybe kind of, sort of. It shows up just as infrequently as the other ones though, even more so actually, so I mean, it's cool, but I don't think it really helps the case that this game has lackluster power-ups. Alright, let's talk about enemies. A lot of the classic enemies return to the 3D space, which is nice. Koopa Troopas don't, though. We see a handful of them. We do get Koopa the Quick, but he doesn't seem evil, so I don't know. A lot of Goombas, a lot of Bob-ombs. I think the enemy selection is sufficient. I don't really miss any enemy that was in the 2D games that are not here. Nothing comes to mind really, so yeah. Maybe the Koopa Troopas with wings? Or the Goombas with wings? Now during the Let's Play I did question what was considered a boss and what wasn't. And the wiki, I guess, answers this question for me. In the mini-boss section they have Big Mr. I, Big Bully, and Chill Bully. Which, I mean, makes sense because they're just bigger versions of already existing enemies. So, in the bosses section they have King Bob-omb, Womp King, Bowser, Big Boo, I-Rock, and Wiggler. What's I-Rock? Oh, that's I-Rock. Okay. I know that was his name. Yeah, he's definitely a boss. Now, the bosses are pretty straightforward. Not super difficult. I would say the hardest one is definitely I-Rock, because he can easily just push you off the platform, and there's almost nothing you can do unless you react fast enough. Good boss, it's difficult. King Bob-omb is fine. I mean, he's not super difficult. He is the first one, he's literally the first star if you're going in order, so it makes sense that he's not super difficult. I think he's fine. The Womp King is also pretty straightforward. You can, you know, just kind of phase through his body if you know how to, so he's not that challenging, but again, he's one of the first ones you encounter, so that's okay. Bowser himself, well, you fight him on 3 different occasions, so I think it's okay. As you progressively fight him, he does switch up things, like learning how to teleport, moving the platform, and also charging at you, which I think is a good enough mix-up of the encounter to justify it. It's kind of reminiscent of the first Super Mario game, where, you know, you fight him for the first time, and all he does is jump and shoot fireballs at you, but then towards the end he's jumping through and shooting fireballs and he's freaking throwing hammers at you. So, you know, it's kind of similar. It's kind of like the first thing but with more stuff added. It's similar to this. It's kind of like the first fight but with more stuff added. Now Big Boo is not very challenging at all, and Wiggler, I would say it's the easiest boss. But that's not a whole bunch of bosses, especially since we have 15 courses. It's kind of weak. Also, where are these guys at? Why weren't they in the first 3D game? Isn't that weird? There's a lot of stuff that were in past games that are iconic that aren't in this game. Speaking of, where's my man Luigi? Where's my man Luigi at? We need to know. What have they done to this boy? Why did they wrong him in this way? Now, it was originally planned to add Luigi because there was going to be like a split screen multiplayer thing that they just never got to do. So at least he was planned to be implemented into this game. These guys, on the other hand, I have no idea if there were any plans to implement them or why they weren't implemented, because they were in the past 2 games and it seemed like they were going to be a recurring thing. But instead we get these guys as bosses, which, I mean, they're cool, but most of them are just larger versions of past enemies. And we get one Wiggler. And I-Rock. I-Rock is cool. But, you know, maybe it was just like a limitation thing where they couldn't add that many models in the game. I don't know. Also, I guess you could ask, like, how would they implement them in the game? Especially if there's 15 courses. Not really sure. Alright, let's move on to probably one of the most contentious arguments that people have about this game, and that's difficulty. A lot of people will tell you that this game is unfair, it's really difficult, that Mario can't function correctly, and he's just doing whatever he wants to do. And they're pressing the right buttons and moving the stick in the right way. He just doesn't do what he's supposed to do. They'll say that there's a lot of stars that are completely bullcrap and they're too difficult to get. People will tell you that the 100 coin stars are one of the most obnoxious things ever. I'm here to kind of disagree. Now, I noticed something rather interesting when watching other people play this game that didn't play it as a child. Well, for one, they completely suck at it, but it reminded me of me in a way. When I play some of these earlier games, I didn't play these as a kid. I'm not very good at them. Are they difficult games? No, they're not difficult games, because there's people in 1985 that were 8 years old who beat these games with enough time and dedication. So people that I used to watch on YouTube, when they would do their little Let's Play, they would show off how straightforward these games really are, and it would kind of make me feel like, oh, I feel insufficient for not being able to play as well. And yeah, I should. These games are really easy. So is this one, though. And people make this game out to be like it's one of the most difficult games ever. We also have this gem of a review. If there are any serious Nintendo fans, then breaking news. This game is the hardest of all Mario games. What? If you watch people like Game Grumps or even Kato and what's his face, that's a callback. You'll probably be like, oh, Mario 64 is unfair. It's just so, it doesn't work.
Can you hit that? Oh, fuck, the water's too fucking high.
Literally just jump. Here, look, that's how easy the star is to get.
This blankie around.
It's one of the hardest levels in the game, in my opinion.
Is it really? It
Yeah.
feels like it.
There's 6 stars in this thing, man.
What? How long do you take on the red coins?
Hey, Monty.
Jesus.
Oh, is it just like a...
It's a wall course. It's a platforming. Good camera, man. It's a platforming course. Why can't you grab that light? What the fuck? How are you supposed to do the thing again? Or that?
No, I don't need to.
Oh god. Now you have to. Okay, there's
Oh.
somewhere down there.
Whoa! Fucking... Can I kill Monty?
I don't know. It's hard. It's like whack-a-mole. What? I think they're infinite now that I think about it.
Fuck, dude.
It's just 1,000 molecules.
Okay.
Okay, the last one's up there.
Yeah.
Oh no, you're gonna fuck it up. I just touched myself in the eyeball.
Oh, I did it. But, come on.
Do the side thingy.
I did, but it, like, blocked me. Okay, I run.
Run back towards the thing while you're sliding. Yeah.
Whoa.
Like that.
Now how do I get back up to the top?
You just platform. You could drop down, which would probably be easier. Could be here all fucking day.
Whoa!
I remember spending like an hour and a half on this as a kid, just trying to get that last red coin.
I'll be better at it than you.
Hopefully. Never said it was good. Come on.
Okay, I'm going around. If I get arrested, it'll be for tax evasion. Probably, to be fair.
Do the thing. You don't have to see yourself. Do it.
I kind of do have to.
Why you don't? Just do it. It's literally the simplest moveset. Other way.
What the fuck?
Go. Boom.
Yeah!
Now do it again. Up there. Oh, so close.
I'm getting better at that, man.
All right, now good luck. I'm gonna go silent for this. Let's see if anything can do it.
I'm not jumping from here.
Why not?
Guys.
How are you gonna make it?
Where the fuck is it?
It's right down there.
Okay.
Oh God. Please don't die. The long jump of the ages right here, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh.
Oh, that was hard.
They're literally just... There's me doing it. Yep, the game isn't difficult. Now yes, this is very subjective, but the reason why I bring it up is because people make it out to be that this game is just unplayable pretty much for now. That's not true. I'm not a super pro at this game, and I had not that difficult time playing this game, so... Get fucked. Now... There is one kind of exception to that, though. That's the last 2 courses. I came to the realization that the last 2 courses are pretty much 2 challenge courses. Like I said before, all stars are optional except for the first one and the one right before the second Bowser fight. Really weird that that one's like the only other one that isn't optional. There's no other star in the game that you need to do to be able to get to anywhere else specific except for that one. It's really weird. You can completely ignore the last 2 courses if you're only going for the minimum amount of stars to get to fight Bowser. So, that being said, I think it's fair to look at these last 2 courses as the challenge courses of the game. And challenging they are. First off, we have Tick-Tock Clock. It's probably one of the weirdest levels in the entire game. Not because it's a clock, but because it's very vertically oriented, and no other level in this entire game is like that. There's definitely some verticality to a lot of the levels, especially even the first one, but none that are primarily vertical. Now I mentioned that I didn't have a big problem with the star booting you out of the course. The exception is this level in particular, because you have to go through the exact same terrain every time you want to get to the next star. In other courses, you can start by going to the left and the next star to the right, and then, you know, you can do it differently. But in this course, you pretty much have to go the same route every single time. And you can go to the right and get the red coins and not go by the pendulum thing, but you pretty much have to go by the same terrain every single time to get a new star. This level is the one level where I would like to just be able to get all the stars in one go. The 100 coin star is definitely difficult because you pretty much have to get every single coin available in the level. So you have to go all the way to the top. Definitely challenging because there's no floor at the very bottom. So if you fall, if you make one mistake, there's a really big chance of you just falling to your death and having to restart the whole thing. Now, is that unfair? Yes, but it's the penultimate level. It should be difficult. Now, the last level is Rainbow Ride. Same thing, bottomless pit. Now, this isn't vertically oriented really, but it is kind of like surreal. It's just kind of weird. It's just kind of floating bits of platforming just out there. It's pretty strange. There isn't really a theme to it. I did compare it to the Sky World from Super Mario 3 because I do think they were trying to like hit the same, thematic point, kind of. I also came to the realization that this level is probably their attempt at a 3D auto-scroller, which is really weird. You have to ride the carpets and you're basically just waiting around. It's pretty much a 3D auto-scroller. You even gotta like jump over, platforms and stuff like you would do in like Super Mario 3. Very similar. Never noticed that until this Let's Play. Now this is probably one of the most challenging 100 coin stars in the entire game just because of one thing. You pretty much have to get the blue coins, and to get the blue coins, you have to do this wall jump little challenge thing. If you mess up, you're not going to get the blue coins in time, and you're just going to have to restart the level. It's the only occasion in this entire game where if you mess up, you need to restart the level to get enough coins. It's really weird, it's unfair, but again, it's the last level, and like I established, these last two courses are pretty much challenge courses for those who feel like they mastered the rest of the game. So I'm not too broken up about it because again, every star in this game is optional, except for the first one and the one before the second Bowser fight. So yes, it is unfair, but that's okay because it wasn't meant to be fair, because at that point you should have mastered the game already. There is a lot of waiting around because again, it's like a 3D auto-scroller. It can get quite annoying. Not all the level is like that, but it's definitely noticeable when it happens. I hated this level as a kid. It now just kind of bothers me a little bit. So again, the last two levels, definitely challenging. I understand why people don't like them, but they were clearly designed to be unfair, to test you, to see if you actually mastered the game. A lot of people will go into it not knowing how to play the game really well. They'll get to those two levels and they'll be like, this is just a whole bunch of bull crap. But it's meant to test you. Alright, so I didn't really talk about the 3 Bowser levels, but let's go through them real quickly. The first one's pretty straightforward. There isn't anything that's incredibly difficult about it. I think it's pretty fair. It's dark and mysterious. Ooh. It's kind of interesting that we don't get like a fortress level. I mean, it kind of makes sense because we're in the castle and it would be weird if we get transported to like a fortress because we're in a fortress, really. So I think like Bowser's little course that he makes us run through is thematically fitting for this game. The Bowser fight is pretty straightforward. You just gotta grab him and throw him into the bomb. Pretty much everybody knows about this fight pretty much, even if you haven't played it, I would say. You only have to do it once, which is kind of like, maybe you should have made us do it 3 times, because you can beat this boss in like 15 seconds if you know what you're doing, which is pretty fast. But I guess you could also say you could beat the original Bowser fight from the first game even quicker. But then again, that's a 2D game from 1985, and this is a 3D game from 1996. Doesn't really bother me, but it is kind of like, maybe you should have made this harder a little bit. Maybe hit him twice with the bomb at least, something. The second one, I mentioned in the playthrough that it's like Lethal Lava Land Part 2, and that's just because it has the same skybox and there's lava, and it feels very similar. This actually is kind of like the old fortress levels because, there's lava. There isn't really like a fortress structure, but there's lava and stuff like that, and there was lava and stuff like that in the older games. There's a little more stuff going on here. You can't fall to your death like you can the first one, so people might like this one a little bit better because there's a chance to recover if you mess up. I didn't mess up though, so I wouldn't know. The second Bowser fight is pretty much the same as the first, but now he makes the platform do a little shifty thing, and he charges at you, which I think is enough of a mix-up, like I mentioned before. It's similar enough to the first one, but it introduces new elements so it doesn't feel exactly the same. The third and final Bowser level is, I would say, the best one. I think it adds the most challenge to it. It has probably one of the best hidden red coins in the level, which is at the very end underneath the bridge. I think that's one that people easily miss, very easily miss, and be looking for a long time.
because it's not something you would immediately think of to even look behind there. So good job, Nintendo. The fight itself is quite challenging. You do have to hit him 3 times into the bombs. The fact that you only need to throw him once into the bombs in the other 2 fights makes this fight feel a lot more epic, I would say. But I would also say that it would have been better if you had to hit him 3 times in each one. I like how he breaks the platform into a star at the last hit, or if you knock him down the platform enough times and he jumps back, he breaks off pieces of it. I think that's pretty cool. And then you beat him, and then you get the big power star, and then that's the end. And you go and you talk to Peach, and then you win the game, and you fly. Cool. I believe this game is the last game that Miyamoto directly had any influence on when it comes to Mario games. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. And that's really interesting because this game, I'm not going to say it's timeless, but it's clearly a well-made game, even when you're playing it nowadays. I can't really be objective here. This is probably one of my favorite games, if not my favorite game. So there's definitely some bias towards it that I have, but I honestly believe that this game gets too much crap when it comes to like controls, the camera, stuff like that. People complain a lot about the camera. I was watching a speedrunner, I don't remember who, he said to switch to Mario Cam and hit down on the C stick and it pretty much fixes it. And when he said that, anytime I had a problem with the camera I would try that, and most of the times it did fix it. So yeah, just do that, I guess. I had a lot of fun playing through this game. I played through this game so many times as a kid. This is only the second time I actually 100%ed, but I used to play this game a whole bunch. I used to play the DS port of this when I got that in like 2008 or whenever I got the DS. I know this game not exactly like the back of my hand, but pretty close. This is definitely a recommend to literally anybody who likes video games. I'm not going to blame you if you think it's kind of clunky, but just note that if you can master this game, and you can not ignore the clunkiness, but you can get to the point where the clunkiness isn't noticeable to you, like it is to me, really. Like, yes, there is points in time where the camera definitely sucks and you can't do anything about it. But most of the time, I think that's just exaggerated. Yes, Mario does kind of control kind of weird at some points. If you pull back, he'll either just immediately turn around or try to do like a little run around thing. But you can get around that by just gently touching the joystick, and then he'll just turn around instead of doing the whole run around thing. Again, I mentioned if you're having trouble with the camera, just switch to Mario Cam and hit down and then pull back, and it will most likely fix the issue. This game can't be that clunky and also have one of the most popular speedrunning communities of any game ever, because if this game was so broken, then there's no way people could, optimize the speedrun to that. You optimize it that much, like it's just not possible. You can't speedrun Bubsy 3D the way you can speedrun this game. Like, come on. I know that's a low blow because Bubsy 3D is hardly even a game, but come on. People act like this is Bubsy 3D sometimes, honestly. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I mentioned everything I wanted to mention. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Meme! We gotta shout out to Meme. This is a little section for Meme. Meme commented on almost all the videos from Mario 64. Thank you, Meme. That was really cool. We'd always give you shout outs during the Let's Play, so here's your final shout. Thank you, the Meme Lord. Yeah, you're cool. You like Mario 64? I know you like Mario 64, obviously, because you watch the videos. Yeah. One more time, shout out to Meme. Alright, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment down below. Do you agree? Is Mario 64 literally the best game ever, or is it literally the worst game ever? Because it's either one or the other. It's either one extreme or the other. People just can't, say like, it's a good game. You gotta be like, it's the worst thing or the best thing.